One.
Hello and welcome to the review where we go over all things entertainment news from the campus of Clark Atlanta University. I am your host, Ella Starr, joined by our resident Morehouse man, Mr. KJ, and today we are going over the Oscars. How are you doing today?
I'm feeling great as always.
Okay, so we are going to jump into our show, and I say jump quite literally because Jimmy Kimmel hosted, and he started the show jumping out of the Tom Cruise Top Gun plane, which was a joke and a nod to the fact that Top Gun Maverick has been sort of credited with the return to the movies of the 2022-2023 season, but also the fact that since Tom Cruise has joined the Church of Scientology, he has not been to any awards. Top Gun Maverick has been heavily nominated this season. He has not been at any award shows, and he actually gave his Golden Globes back this season. He returned all three of them. So how do we feel about Mr. Tom Cruise and his shenanigans as of late?
I mean, they're giving back the Globes. They don't want them. That's why they gave them away. They don't care. I mean, you don't want them, you don't want them. That's how I look at it.
I mean, he's still credited with the win, obviously.
Right, exactly. So, like, you know, I guess he just didn't want to keep the space in his crib. I don't know. He said, I don't want him. Yeah. But he still got that credit that comes along with it. So, whatever.
Still on it.
Yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel made a lot of funny jokes. The most repeated joke was how long the award shows were actually going to be. The award shows clocked in at just over 4 hours. But as many jokes for how long he said the award show is, he gave a 15-minute opening monologue.
Yeah, that man was chatting.
So they made the decision to show all the awards on stage. That was the Film Association's decision. They wanted it to be that way since this is the first Oscars fully back from the pandemic. I find that a little problematic in and of itself because, as we know, COVID has not gone anywhere.
Right.
It's just lesser than it was in 2020.
It's less restriction.
Correct. So because this is their first show back, they wanted to do it fully. They didn't exactly do that. They still had the main awards that they would show on air. And instead of highlighting those awards that are shown off air, they did them off air and had QR codes to watch the footage of what was done.
I didn't know that either.
That's what a lot of people were saying. They were like, do they really expect me to zoom in on my TV and scan a QR code to see who won best animation, graphic? Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yes, it was. Back to Jimmy Kimmel. He made a lot of jokes. On that list of a lot of jokes, of course, there had to be the Will Smith and Chris Rock joke.
Yes.
So he said that the Academies now had a no violence policy, and of course made the joke that his co-star from his own show, Guillermo, who is a media favorite, social media favorite, you had to get through Guillermo to come get to him. But there was a lot of people laughing in the crowd, and a lot of these people had negatively responded and reacted to the actual slap at last year's Oscars, and of course after, when stars were asked in different interviews what it was like being in the room at the time. Chris Rock actually recently released his comedy show, even though he said
Selective outrage, right?
Even though he said that he was not going to comment on the slap in any of his comedy shows. In the show, he talks about it for almost a good 10 minutes, saying that there are certain things you just don't do in front of white people. So, the question of the day, was the Academies mad at the actual so-called violence that happened on the stage, or were they just upset that black people were acting out in front of white people?
I think they were just upset that it happened. Like, how dare you come on my show and act a fool? That's basically what it is. Like, don't do that here. Do that outside. That's yeah. You know, I think that's what they were thinking.
So I was scrolling through Twitter when the Chris Rock show dropped on Netflix.
I watched the whole thing.
I did not.
It's actually funny.
I don't personally find Chris Rock funny, so I knew that I wasn't going to take the time, which is why I went and looked him up on Twitter. But I had to agree with a lot of users who were saying that as much outrage as Chris Rock received, there wasn't much outrage at the fact of the reason why Will Smith got up in the first place, which was the joke against his wife. We talk about it a lot here in the studio, and we don't think that it was enough of a joke to warrant a reaction. But a lot of people did point out that since Madagascar times. Chris Rock has been throwing jokes at Jada Pinkett specifically, but also a lot of jokes at the expense of black people, black women, for that white laughter. The video of him and Ricky Gervais and Jerry Springer popped up where he was using the hard ER and allowing Ricky Gervais to use the hard ER, and it was actually Jerry Springer, who was Jewish, who was like, I don't find this amusing and I don't think you should find this amusing.
Right.
That came into question. A lot of his credibility, I believe, also came into question in these past couple weeks with the release of the show and the upcoming Oscars. I think it'll be interesting to watch how this continues to play out.
I think it's like downhill after here. Like I feel like he's gonna let it go. Will Smith is gonna let it go. It's finished. He said what he said. That's it. It should be. That's it.
Right.
No reason to bring it back up. So we shall see.
We shall see. Speaking of things we see, what we didn't see at the Oscars last night was James Cameron. So James Cameron directed Avatar: Way of Water. It clocked in as the highest cost film of all of film history, just at $2 billion.
Right.
That was a Disney film. He was not in attendance at the Oscars. He was not nominated for Best Director. People were saying that he was maybe a little salty about that he didn't really he felt like he should have been nominated, especially because Avatar: Way of Water was nominated for Best Picture. What do you think? Just not showing up because you're not nominated?
I mean, the movie itself was still nominated for something.
It was nominated for 4 awards.
I think it's like a little bit of ego at the same time. I don't know. Like you waited like more than a decade to get this film out.
Right.
You know, if you had other obligations that night that this date was set for a whole year, then so be it. But other than that, if you just didn't want to go, say you just didn't want to go.
Right, like Spike Lee and Denzel Washington were courtside at the Lakers game,
right,
down the street instead of being at the Oscars.
I'm with them. Word.
Yeah, I think it's rather interesting that he just decided not to show up. I think it was an interesting spin how Jimmy Kimmel put on it. He made the joke, who do the Academies think he is? A woman, which for those of you who don't know, there has never been a woman who's won Best Directing in the 95 years of the Academy Awards. There's been very few who've been nominated. How bad of a show that is.
I think when he said the joke, I think the audience didn't get it at first. It was
right.
like, oh, did they were like, oh,
right.
So that's kind of funny. Yeah, you got a point, Kimmel. Good job. So yeah, other than that, that's what's up, because there's been a lot of first, quite recently, Woman King. I think should have been up there, bro, or at least nominated. I don't think it was, but
it was not. It was not nominated for any Oscar.
Yeah, that was something. I know Patty Jenkins did Wonder Woman 1 and 2. I think we're not going to even talk about 2, but 1 was kind of good.
I think 2 was definitely deserving of a nod.
Yo, you think so?
I do. I mean,
shit.
2 is rather interesting, but I think in terms of if they're looking for movies that are going to scream like, I am a woman, like this is me and my power and my femininity, I think 2 goes into depth more about that than 1, especially because she was facing a female villain instead of facing David Thewlis, who was playing Hades.
Okay.
David Thewlis, who is one of my favorite actors. I
love him too. He's great.
But Woman King was not nominated. Jimmy Kimmel also mentioned that. I thought that was a great call out because the word leading up to it, there was a critic who complained that Viola Davis was complaining, basically saying that she was ungrateful, and then called Gina Price Blythewood, who was the director,
right?
That lady director, instead of using her name, and said you should just be grateful that you're still in Hollywood.
Right, that's crazy.
I think that was very distasteful. I think we should definitely be allowing women the space, especially black women the space, to come and uphold this media, because as we found out later in the night, it is black women that is upholding media for several studios, and we will get into all of that when we come back. This is The Review, and you're watching CAU TV. Hello, and welcome back to The Review, where we are going over the night that was the Oscars. Of course, when you're talking about the Oscars, you have to go into red carpet fashion. So starting off our fashion segment, I have to go with our auntie. I have to go with the Angela Bassett. She looked incredibly regal. She was wearing royal purple, the big sleeves, the long dress. I found out yesterday that Angela Bassett is only 5'4", which means she is my size. And I feel like she is at least like 6 foot in stature.
Yo, bro,
like
word.
she is such a
5'4"?
yeah.
I never knew that. Wow. That's how you know, like, the impression that she always gives off is just bigger than life. So she's just amazing.
And that her
and looks
stylist
lovely.
is amazing.
Word.
That she looks so like incredibly just like large in all her pictures.
She
I love
did
it. Moving on to Janelle Monáe. Janelle Monáe, who was recently found in Glass Onion. She did a stellar performance in Glass Onion. Definitely gonna have to do a breakdown on that
Word.
one. But I think she looks gorgeous. The orange on her skin
bottom,
color.
Yes. Orange look good on black,
The
man.
corset and the matching choker, I just love for the moment with the cornrows. She had like these silver like straps braided in, and I just think it was tied together. I think it was very lovely, very classic, a little sexy. Like it's just fun to me.
She is sexy.
And we're moving on. Halle Berry. I think Halle Berry has to be like, I guess
She's
the
her.
definition
She's
of
her.
like how to age gracefully.
She's her. You know how many
Like I feel like it goes in stages. Like it's Halle Berry, and then we move into Angela Bassett.
rap songs mention Halle Berry?
To this day,
Halle Berry, like them
this day.
legs was given. She was, yeah.
I think she looked absolutely stunning.
Yeah, she did.
People have been joking, saying that she's losing the melanin, and I'm not seeing that. It's not.
She
it's
always-
not giving that.
She always been that couple. That's just the
It's-
makeup on camera
yeah.
usually. She always been like
It's
that.
not giving that. I love the little gold flowers. I think the bob is really cute. I live for a little curly bob. I love it.
Pedro.
The internet's daddy. I think it's a little weird that they still call him daddy.
I didn't know they do.
So he did an interview where he was like, daddy is a state of mind, like I'm a daddy, and the internet has been in shambles ever since. I think it's a little weird, but I do think this look is very classic. I think it's very sexy. I think it screams like
I like that
I'm
mindset.
an authority,
Mm-hmm.
you know, which he's been killing it in Last of Us recently, The Mandalorian.
He's doing his thing.
This man is almost working as hard as Jonathan Majors. I don't think anybody's working as
Bro,
hard
it's
as
just
Jonathan
them two,
Majors.
in my opinion, really rocking it right now.
I think they're going to take over both Marvel and Star Wars, and then we're just going to have people of color at the head of Disney, which I'm always here for. Speaking of color, this pop of color on Cate Blanchett.
I love that blue.
I love it. Here's my thing. When certain white people wear certain colors, I feel like it's sort of a gamble, especially with people who are like as pale as Cate Blanchett, because like a color can either like be too loud for you or
Right.
wash you out. I feel like this is perfect. It matches her eyes. Like it doesn't give too much to the blonde in her hair, and then the black just makes it like all come together.
Right.
Salma Hayek. I love her personally.
I love her too.
I think my favorite movie of hers is Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife. I think that's like one of the funniest movies I've ever watched. Here she is in this orange shimmery dress. I chose this picture though, however, because she brought her daughters and she chose to match with her daughter Valentina, who's in a red dress by the same designer.
The red is fire.
I love it. I didn't know her kids were that pale, but I think that both of the colors play off their skin very nice. I think
Word.
they look very classic. I think that's my favorite part about Oscar fashion, that most people can do fun things and it still looks regal and classic and sort of old Hollywoodish in a way.
I personally think this is why people watch the Oscars, just for the red carpet event. I don't even think
Absolutely.
they watch the actual show. They want to see how these people dress best. Boom, change the channel.
Would you not pick 30 minutes of watching your favorites walk down the red
Word.
carpet in
Nah.
fun fashion over 4 hours of watching them just sit there in a chair?
No doubt.
Like, I think she looks gorgeous. Brian Tyree Henry has also been working recently. He was nominated a couple times. He did not win anything this award season, I don't believe, which is a little disappointing. I think he's a wonderful actor. People have been talking a lot about Jonathan Majors' emotional intelligence in all his films. I think Brian Tyree Henry actually can match that
100%.
in levels of emotional
Agreed.
intelligence. But the white jacket with the silver appliques and the chains, The details flowing from the shirt into the jacket lapels, I
sparkly.
thought
He's
was
looking
so cute. The cufflinks matched, the rings matched.
My man's was shining. He was shining, no doubt.
I really, really, really love this look. And then there's Tim's, who's also in white.
That's queen.
I think she looks absolutely gorgeous. So this designer has done a couple of looks this award season. He's done Cardi B for the Grammys. He's done Quinta Burnson for the Billboard Awards. But his thing is like these giant sculptured pieces. I love it. I think she looks absolutely gorgeous. I think it fits, considering she was nominated with Rihanna for Lift Me Up from Black Panther, which of course was a song in tribute to Chadwick Boseman.
Right.
So I think it was entirely fitting, although it was said that nobody could see behind her.
She had that headpiece on the whole night,
The
of
whole
course.
night, because it's part of the dress. It's not separate. It's part of the dress.
If you want to pop out, this is how you pop out, I guess.
I think this is how you pop out. I think this is how you take on your first award show, especially considering she's still considered a new artist.
True.
Her breakout season was 2022.
She's still very fresh.
So I love it. I think that's definitely how you pop out and gag the girls. Oh, you were trying to see something? No, you can't see anything. Moving on, I had to add these two honorable mentions. Before I go there, honorable mention to Jonathan Majors, who I didn't add because he did not have my favorite look of the night, but his look was inspired by a suit that Frederick Douglass wore. And I thought that he looked very classic. I thought he looked very cute. It just wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite out of all the things that he's worn this award season and on the Creed and Ant-Man press tours.
If you watch all his interviews, like, that is his style. He's really like he's an
old-timey kind of guy.
Really?
Which is why I really love him as Kang the Conqueror in the new Ant-Man and the new Loki coming out, because he'll be playing Timely, and Timely is an old, like, 1930s, let me introduce technology kind of guy.
Right.
I'm really excited for that, which we'll have to break that down all together later. But honorable mention goes to the Vanity Fair, after party where Hunter Schafer shows up and stops the presses.
I bet she did.
A feather. It's a feather. It's nothing but a feather.
She could take the feather and tickle me with it, for sure, if she wants to.
That might be the wildest thing that has been said on the review. But I think this look is so much fun. It definitely screams after party. Like, it screams after party, but it's still very regal. It's still very fun.
Right.
The long skirt. I love the pink eyeshadow. As you can see, I'm a makeup girly.
I didn't notice the long skirt. Wow.
I'm a makeup girly, so I live for a great pop of color. As you can tell, I'm wearing bright green. But I really, really love this look. I love the step out. Speaking of stepping out, Megan Thee Stallion. Megan Thee Stallion popped out to the Vanity Fair after party. This is the first public appearance that she's had since the Tory Lanez trials, Tory Lanez versus the state of California. I think she looks absolutely gorgeous. She's rocking her own natural hair.
I love the hair.
Black down to the bottom.
The hair is fire.
Which I also love. It reminds me a lot of the album color for Traumatized, which was the album she dropped before the trial started. She didn't really get to make a PR run on that because she was called to appear in court in the trial. So I really love it. It's kind of giving me Black Widow vibes. Like,
it is.
You thought you had me.
With a touch of red and, okay, I see it,
like,
I see it.
You thought you had me. You thought you were going to end my career, and you did not.
Yeah.
You ended yourself. I really, really love that. I am a natural hair girly, so I always appreciate whenever natural hair is worn on
Team
the red
natural
carpet.
hair all around. I love it.
I love it, and she has such beautiful hair. I just love seeing her come out. I enjoy seeing her be happy. I think she definitely deserves it. And speaking of deserving, when we get back, we are going to talk all about the winners of the night. There are a couple of people who won big, and there are some people who made some history, and we're going to talk all about it right here on The Review. You're watching Cau TV, and you don't want to miss it. Hello and welcome back to The Review. Thank you for sticking with us as we close out our show talking about the biggest night of award season, the Oscars. So, pretty big wins, some pretty big wins, and some pretty big history being made. So Ruth E. Carter, who is the costume designer for Black Panther, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever won the award again. She won previously for Black Panther. She won again for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which makes her the first Black woman to have multiple awards, multiple Oscars. The only Black woman to have multiple Oscars, which means Halle Berry has not done it. Angela Bassett, Viola Davis, the greats have not done it. It's been 95 years. Again, I say. I think that's a little ridiculous.
Nah, it is. I mean, I'm just glad that Wakanda Forever, Black Panther got at least some type of award.
Right.
But the costumes was really dope. It was fire. So it's really deserving.
Right, which they did not get the nomination for Best Picture like they did with the original Black Panther, which I was sort of expecting.
Yeah.
But I do think it was great to see them win. It also means that Marvel, who is one of the biggest media studios out right now, the only films that they have winning Academy Awards is Black Panther, which I think speaks to the strength of letting Black people tell Black stories.
As they should.
I think that Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is about Sam Wilson, who is a Black man stepping into the mantle of Captain America after Steve Rogers, would have been a lot better had it been a Black woman behind the camera instead of a white woman behind the camera. I think a lot of that show focused on his white counterpart, Bucky Barnes, and his rehabilitation, which was a great addition to the story, but I feel like we lost so much of Sam in that story.
I agree, for sure.
I think if we continue to let Black people tell Black stories, we will be more well-rounded and people will start seeing Black people for who they are.
Let's get more Black stories out there.
Absolutely. Speaking of awarding for who they are, RRR, you got my joke there, won Best Original Song in a Movie. They actually were not expecting RRR to do this well in American market. They threw it on Netflix on the international side, and it did great in the American market. It has another award for Best Original Song because they can't get nominated for Best International Movie. The country has to pick a movie and submit it. India did not pick RRR, so I think Best Original Song is a great way to actually award RRR for doing so well in the American market, as well as having original songs. It's a musical, so it was very song and dance heavy, which is a Bollywood signature.
Right.
But how do you feel about that?
I just think, we should get more Bollywood movies more into the fold. It's like people are sleeping on these movies, especially like other movies in general of ethnic cultures.
Right.
So I believe Bollywood movies, they make great entertaining movies for sure. So I just hope they push more for those movies to get out there.
Right, which K-pop and K-drama have made a very huge impact on the American market as of late, but you really don't see any of those movies or shows or even songs really outside of BTS and maybe Blackpink or Twice being nominated in major categories. So I'm very excited to see this move into actually giving props to ethnic backgrounds.
Agreed.
And ethnic music. The whole award season has given us the joy that is Cau Tv, who was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in his role for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, which is a fantastic movie. I think it's definitely worth the watch if you haven't watched it. But he pretty much did a clean sweep this award season. His co-star Michelle Yeoh, who played his wife, was nominated for Best Leading Actress. She didn't sweep as cleanly as him, but she did become the first Asian actor to win Best Lead in a role and the second woman of color to win, the first being Halle Berry, who actually presented the award. Again, 95 years. What are we thinking?
Both roles definitely deserving. I was watching Homeboy since The Goonies, and then when he was in Indiana Jones, Michelle Yeoh, and everything she has been in. So, especially this movie was a great movie. Watched it like twice. So I think both awards was very deserving of the night.
Speaking of that movie, is an A24 movie. A24, who is known for sort of making mainstream movies with indie vibes.
Right.
They basically did a clean sweep of the Oscars. Everywhere, Everything, All at Once won all 6 awards that it was nominated for, with the exception of they had a 7th award they were nominated for with the supporting actress, which of course was Jamie Lee Curtis instead of Stephanie Hu, who were both in the movie. But they did a clean sweep, and then Brendan Fraser, who was in The Whale, which was also a A24 movie, won Best Leading Actor. I kind of love that for him.
I love to see him coming back.
Yes, absolutely.
Coming back from the mommy. I'm actually watching Doom Patrol right now, where she's actually great, and I only watch it just because of Brendan Fraser. I'm glad he was nominated. I'm glad he won an award, because that man is stunning, man.
He's a real star, and I think the industry has done him so wrong over the years. And he's so humble even speaking about it. He takes responsibility for a lot of things that producers and directors have done against him. I'm happy that he's getting his flowers now.
Agreed.
I've heard that The Whale is so heart-wrenching. It's definitely on my list of things to watch in the next month.
Me too, for sure.
Moving on, going back, Austin Butler was predicted to win with Elvis for
Elvis is
Best
great. I
Actor
like
and did not, Elvis sort of swept a lot of the other awards this year. How are we sort of feeling about Austin
thing
Butler?
about Elvis, going into watching Elvis, I'm like, it's another biopic.
Right.
I didn't know so much about Austin Butler going into it. I know Tom Hanks. I didn't know what big of a role he was playing. So I didn't know the story of Elvis that much going into the movie. But I'm watching the movie, I'm like, wow, I think he did his thing in that movie. He carried that movie, honestly.
I think he was definitely very great. I've always been familiar with Austin Butler because I was a Disney Channel kid. And if you're a Disney Channel kid, then you definitely know Austin Butler. Even if you're into maybe media drama, other Disney Channel star Vanessa Hudgens, they were actually engaged. Vanessa Hudgens, who was actually a reporter on the red carpet, who did not get to interview Austin Butler. The interview actually went to her co-star Ashley Graham. They broke up, in her words, because he was so consumed with becoming Elvis for this role.
Really? Wow.
And his voice actually hasn't changed back. His voice was sort of high-pitched, what you would think when you hear a white guy sort of talking almost like a surfer dude,
right.
Almost, and he kind of has this raspy low register that is Elvis, and that has not gone away.
Yeah, nobody wants Johnny Bravo walking around in their house, so.
Yeah. So I think that was a little interesting. I thought that was a little bit of a messy moment on E's part. They were like, yeah, let's avoid a fight tonight.
Word.
But he was a media favorite, and he did not win. I was actually really surprised when that happened. Personally, he's not one of my favorites. But the thing that we definitely have to talk about before our day is over is Jamie Lee Curtis winning Best Supporting Actress. So she was up against a lot of people, some heavyweight people. Most importantly, she was against Angela Bassett, who was favored this entire award season, and Stephanie Sue, who was passed over this whole award season. Stephanie Sue, I know she wasn't your favorite in that movie, but she carried a lot of that movie.
Yeah.
I don't think Michelle Yeoh could have done the performance as a mother had Stephanie Sue not been that daughter.
Yeah, they had good chemistry in that film.
They had amazing chemistry.
Definitely.
I think that she would be the definite choice for the Oscars. She gave the artistry. She was the newcomer, and she sort of gave this I'm not going anywhere kind of feel.
As she should.
But a lot of critics have been talking about awarding veterans for their lifetime work, even in these smaller awards.
Right.
So then the Oscar would have to be between Jamie Lee Curtis and Angela Bassett. Jamie Lee Curtis, who has done a couple of amazing things in her career, but not as much as Angela Bassett.
Her resume is not not like Auntie. Auntie, especially I guess they're not looking at it from a black perspective in the black culture. How much of the influence of Angela Bassett has been. So.
But I think Angela Bassett has still had an amazing influence. Angela Bassett was probably the most nominated in any category across this entire award season for almost every award show against her competitors.
But regardless, Best Supporting Role, right? So we have Jamie Lee Curtis character, and then we have Angela Bassett, that's Auntie, that's the queen, who delivered a great monologue in that movie. So
I think if we're talking strictly about support
for the role,
it should have been Stephanie Hugh's award.
Okay.
She supported every performance in Everything, Everywhere, all at once. Jamie Lee Curtis, as wonderful as I think she did, which I didn't even know it was her until I was watching the credits. I was like,
oh yeah,
Activia.
I didn't know she was in the movie at all until I saw the movie. Until I saw she was in the actual movie, so I didn't know she was casting it. I'm like, that's Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
Oh, wow.
personally, I don't think that Hot Dog Fingers should have won over Have I Not Given Enough? Because has she not given enough?
Right.
Which
That was crazy.
the internet, it kind of exploded in the fact that she looked visibly disappointed when the award was announced that it was Jamie Lee Curtis. And they didn't like that. They called her very disgraceful. I think it was very human.
Right.
She has won this award pretty much all award season except for at the SAG-AFTRA Awards. She was projected to win. All the news outlets said that this award was hers, and then she lost.
Right.
I think it was very humiliating, almost in a way.
We need to stop penalizing people for being human.
Again, have I not given enough against Hot Dog Lady and taxes?
Right.
I just think if we're gonna award veterans for that award, it was not the right choice.
Right.
I think everybody else was extremely deserving. I even think Jamie Lee Curtis is extremely deserving. Just not against Angela Bassett, not against Stephanie Sue.
Agreed.
That is my final take. Is that your final take?
Yeah, we're going to rest it right there.
And I think that is our final take. Thank you so much for sticking with us here at The Review. Join us next time where we lose this walls and these desks and we go into all of the movies, media, and the news that are circulating around. I am Ella Starr.
I'm KJ.
And this has been The Review.